Your rogue approaches the door. Roll for pick locks. 7. You can't get the lock open. Your fighter approaches the door. Roll to break the door down. 9. You don't break it down. Well, I guess we got to go another way. Yeah. As a DM, don't be afraid to just narrate something and remove the dice rolls. If the players have to overcome this obstacle, let it be done through narration. If somebody says they want to do something, your rogue says, hey, I want to pick the lock. Don't force them to make a dice roll, especially if you know they have to get through to the other room. Just tell them to narrate it or narrate it for them. Too many times do we leave things to dice rolls, and what it does is it can stifle players in their creativity. It forces players to think mechanically. It takes them out of the immersion of what is happening. It takes them out of the scene because now they're focusing on just rolling dice. Too many times have I had players, I should say, at my table say, oh, I want to make a perception check. What are you doing? Don't tell me you want to roll dice. Tell me what you want to do. And depending on the scenario, I might just tell you how it unfolds. Or I might ask you to narrate how it unfolds. Because I don't want everything to be a dice roll. And it shouldn't be. I think we need to focus more on what makes a game fun. And rolling the dice is one aspect of it. But I don't think it has to be done as much as we do. Sometimes it's overdone. And I'm not saying go completely narrative for your full game because I don't think that's fun either. Now, if a scenario can have some interesting outcomes from failing a dice roll, as well as some interesting outcomes from succeeding, then leave it to the dice. But if there's no good that can come out of failing it, then why? And by no good, I don't mean just a negative outcome. I just mean it stops the game. Then don't leave it to a dice roll. And that's for picking locks. That's for breaking things down. Encourage your players to narrate stuff like that in those situations. You still want them to say, hey, I want to break this down, and you can say, okay, roll for it. But really, why don't you just tell them to narrate it? Say, okay, tell me how that unfolds. That's all you got to say. Tell me what that looks like. And then that forces them to think, okay, what would this look like? And they can narrate it. They can tell you what their character's doing or how their character gets ready for it. It's something that I want to do more of, something that I think we should all strive to do a little bit more of. And I've heard people say, oh, well, that's great. I've had a whole session without rolling dice. I'm not saying go that extreme. I don't think it'd be fun to play a full session never rolling my dice. So, do with this advice what you will, but I think there's a line, a gray area of when to roll dice and when not to. I think it depends on your group. I think you should think about what is more entertaining for the table as a whole. Is it more entertaining to roll the dice, look at the number, say the number, and hear if it's a success or failure? Or is it more exciting to hear, my character, sets his stuff aside and, cracks his knuckles before picking up some dirt, rubbing it on his hands, pulls the crowbar out of his bag, and then pries the door open? What would be more entertaining for you sitting at the table? Hearing about how he pried the door open or watching him roll the dice and the banter of the numbers back and forth? Personally, I would say prying the door open. You can do the same thing with a lot of different outcomes. Something that might be interesting. Why not ask your players to narrate a full combat? All mooks, nothing important, nothing special. Just let them narrate a full scene of combat with some minor goblins when they're like level 8. no dice rolls. Just let them narrate it. Start the session that way. You know, treat it more like a cutscene in a game than the actual back and forth fighting. That's the one great thing about RPGs is you can do things that will make the experience better. Think of a video game. You know, do you enjoy video games that have cutscenes? I personally do. I think cutscenes are pretty sweet. You just get to watch for a minute. You know, now let your players narrate a cutscene. Cutscenes. I love cutscenes. I've done it in a few games. I haven't done it recently, and actually that's something I want to do in my next home game. So I've got some ideas. I love it. And whether it's a moment in that time, maybe it's a moment happening elsewhere, maybe it's from the past, you can narrate things and give them these cutscenes that will make things more entertaining. But give them a cutscene that's present. Instead of rolling dice, let them narrate it. So if it has to happen, let it be narrated. Don't force dice rolls. That's the moral of the story. Love to hear your thoughts below. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.